The world we inhabit is not as free, or certain, or safe as you might think. The things that you believe to be unassailably evident are little more than shadows dancing behind a curtain, a masquerade crafted and dutifully upheld by an organization known as the Foundation. The file you are about to hear contains containment procedures, descriptions, testing logs, historical and in some cases first-hand accounts of the anomalous objects the Foundation serves to secure, contain, and protect. Its contents have been thoroughly scrutinized by the Ethics Committee and approved by the O5 Council for release to trusted associates of the Foundation. This is SCP Unredacted. Item number SCP-5868. Object Class Keter. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-5868 has currently been obtained from GOI 952 Only Ironworks under a Foundation front. All former employees are to be retained. To facilitate containment, all employees are to work under the impression that the SCP is still owned by GOI 952. Shifts are to ensure that the SCP is manned at all times. Overtime, holiday bonuses, and other incentives may be used at the discretion of the head researcher. Employees of the SCP are to be retained at all costs. D-Class may be used to replace deceased employees. D-Class who have formerly worked in the meatpacking industry are to be screened for this purpose. Employees of SCP-5868 will be directed to continue processing all instances of 5868-2, regardless of appearance, hazards inherent, or any other status. Notable -2 instances are to be delivered to and retained at Site-156 and cataloged before being incinerated. All other -2 instances are to be incinerated on site after being fully packaged. Employees of the SCP are to wear Class C hazmat containment gear at all times when on the property. Employees charged with unloading 5868-2 are to be instructed to not make contact with 5868-1. All deliveries are to be unloaded without delay. The SCP is to be supplied with no less than 10 backup generators. Under no circumstances should employees cease processing -2 instances. Packages may be reused after the -2 instances are incinerated. If a backup occurs, D-Class is to be brought in to help the processing of the additional -2 instances. If -2 instances are kept from being processed for longer than 6 hours, containment will no longer be necessary. Description: SCP-5868 is the only foods processing plant located in Rikers Valley, Maine. Records show that the anomaly started occurring on 13 February 2016 at 5:35 a.m. with the first delivery by -1. SCP-5868 was seized by the Foundation Front Preferred Options Holdings in a hostile takeover on 27 April 2016. The SCP shows no other anomalous aspect apart from deliveries of -2. Instances of -2 processed at a secondary location are sufficient to avoid increased deliveries from -1. SCP-5868-1 is a semi-trailer truck that manifests at the docking bay of the SCP hourly. After idling for 55 minutes, -1 immediately demanifests. All instances of -2 remaining inside -1 during a demanifestation are left at the loading bay. Contact with -1 other than unloading -2 causes data expunged, which results in an unnecessary interruption in the containment procedures. The interior of -1 has been shown to be larger on the inside, housing a number of -2 instances that would prove impossible in a non-anomalous semi-trailer truck. -2 are cow, bee, Taurus carcasses. Instances of -2 are normally afflicted with rinderpest morbillivirus, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, and infectious pododermatitis. Variations among -2 instances exist, although all have been shown to be genetically identical to a cow. When an instance of -2 is not processed and packaged within an hour, the next load delivered by -1 is greater in number than the previous delivery. This buildup is theorized to be able to render the Earth uninhabitable within 12 hours. However, recent models have shown that a 6-hour blockage would result in a backlog of -2 instances impossible to process within the time limit. Partial record of SCP-5868-2 variants. Date processed, 15 June 2016, 12:35 p.m. a single -2 instance that resembled a mouse, M. musculus. Of note is that this was the entirety of that hour's delivery. Date processed, 2 November 2016, 7:35 a.m. All 1,116 instances of -2 resembled the same adult human male. Of note is that the instances took the appearance of an employee of the SCP who had data expunged after attempting to open -1's driver's side door an hour later. Date processed, 22 March 2017, 8:35 p.m. All 857 instances of -2 were shown to be highly radioactive. Over 66 employees were subjected to dangerous levels of gamma radiation. 4 employees succumbed to fatal radiation poisoning. The remaining 62 employees were able to continue work at reduced capacity. Date processed, 9 June 2018, 3:35 a.m. Delivery contained 2,693 instances of -2, much higher than the average. All instances, however, were fetal. Date processed, 18 October 2018, 11:35 a.m. All 1,451 instances of -2 had tongues and eyes made from wood. Analysis showed the wood belonged to an unknown species in the Pinacea family. In some instances, the wooden eyes appeared to have been roughly shoved into what was an empty socket while the cow was still living. Date processed, 27 January 2019, 9:35 p.m. All 946 instances of -2 were contaminated with human fecal matter, in many cases filling all cavities. Testing revealed that the feces shows signs of a purely beef-based diet. DNA testing showed the feces to have been produced by the employee who had been data expunged on 2 November 2016. Date processed, 20 April 2019, 4:35 p.m. Each of the 1,097 instances of -2 were found to have 6 additional stomachs. The stomachs were found to be filled with an extremely acidic bile. 16 employees were injured, causing an unacceptable slowdown in processing. 1 employee was rendered unable to work following this batch. Date processed, 2 July 2019, 7:35 p.m. All 869 instances of -2 were found to be boneless. No other abnormalities were found. Date processed, 11 September 2019, 10:35 p.m. The delivery consisted of 1 living -2 instance. Employees were instructed to slaughter it with available tools. Instead of blood, beef-based gravy appeared to be flowing through the instance's veins. It was processed as normal. Date processed, 4 March 2020, 4:35 p.m. All 1,365 instances of -2 had tightly woven barbed wire in place of bones and organs. The barbed wire was shown to have severe rust damage. 13 of the instances also lacked a tongue. Date processed, 19 July 2020, 1:35 a.m. All 971 instances of -2 were inside out, with organs on the outside and skin on the inside. Instances were said to smell like freshly cut grass. Date processed, 22 December 2020, 5:35 a.m. All 1,172 instances of -2 vocalized, despite being clearly deceased. Vocalizations did not cease during or after processing. Vocalizations were described as a human attempting to sound like a cow. Interview with William Gartley. The following interview took place on 4 November 2016 with William Gartley, shift manager of the SCP. During the interview, William Gartley was under the impression that it was a performance review given by a company adjudicator. No attempt was made to correct this. This is all great, Bill, but could you please answer my question about the first delivery? You mean the issue with... Bill, you gotta rest easy. You're not being held accountable for the unsafe actions of one of your employees. You're fine. It's fine. This is about the first delivery you can remember. I think you understand what kind I'm talking about here. I'm not sure we're on... Tell me about the black truck, Bill. This isn't a request. Oh, you mean that truck? Yes. It's what we're here to talk about. Not your performance, not any workplace accidents. We want you to tell us everything you know about the truck. Is this a test? It's fine for you to tell me about all of it and how you feel about it just this once. It's for archival purposes. This won't be marked on your personal record. There's a 32-second pause. It just came one day. That's it. We didn't have any other deliveries. There's a 14-second pause. Corporate told us to accept it. Free meat. They didn't know what was causing it and told me not to worry about it. It was free meat. Came from nowhere. Miraculous, really. This is before you noticed there was something wrong with the carcasses, right? There was nothing wrong with the carcasses. It's okay, Bill. This isn't a trap. Just talk plainly with me. They knew the meat was wrong from the first, but corporate decided we make so much profit from using the meat, free meat, that the money we used to settle suits would be a pittance. They didn't realize how bad they were. I'm no expert. It just made economical sense to use them. We had so many. And, well, we realized pretty quick what happened when you didn't. Well, somebody at corporate seemed to know. Do you remember the person that let you know about that? You know, it's funny, but no. Honestly, not just saying that. There were so many higher-ups calling about the truck and the meat and the things. Well, you know, meat sometimes did. How long did they try to use the carcasses? It didn't take long. Even the leather gives you these horrible welts. There's some chemicals on them. I don't know. They're wrong. Does it ever seem futile? What do you mean? Just watching them pack the meat, watching them tan the hides and crush the bones in the feed, and then they burn it all. Does it seem futile? Things need to get done, no matter what. The rest of the interview contained no other information applicable to containment. William Garley has remained the shift manager of the SCP. He's continued to be an exemplary employee. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you like what you hear, follow the link in the description to patreon.com/scpunredacted and help support me by becoming a patron for as little as $3 a month. You can get access to production logs, merchandise, recognition, and even a part in a skip. Regardless of tier, all patrons get early access to every single episode. I don't have the talent it takes to write a skip. All I do is read. Original authors make this podcast possible, so credit to the original author. Their link's in the description. Show them some love as well. Consider becoming a member of the SCP Wiki. Upvote their work and maybe write a skip of your own. Maybe I'll read it here someday. You never know if you never try. The content of this podcast and content relating to the SCP Foundation, including the SCP Foundation logo, is licensed under Creative Commons Sharealike 3.0, and all concepts originate from scpwiki.com and its authors. This recording, being derived from this content, is hereby also released under Creative Commons Sharealike 3.0.